Greetings, I am Tom Earl, and this is my year of depth. We know you could be anywhere, so the fact that you are here today sharing your greatest gifts, your time and energy means the world to me. I hope you know that in this moment you are valued, you are loved, and you are appreciated just as you are. I deeply believe that we are all creatives. And what I've created for you is a series where we're going to use the same intro each week, but different guests that are going to bring to you specific and moving stories on how they tap into their creativity. All of us carry around what Brene Brown calls creativity scars, where at some point in our lives, usually when we were children, when we were expressing our creativity, usually an adult or someone we cared about shamed us. And it changed the way we viewed ourselves as creatives. My intention for this series is for you to let go of some of that shame and to tap more deeply into the power of your creativity. As I mentioned, each week, I'm going to share with you some fun stories, some powerful stories, some vulnerable stories of people sharing with you their creativity, and most importantly, their invitation to you to step more deeply into your creativity. Like I said, we'll use the same intro, but we're going to have different guests join us each week. So I think that's enough for me. Let's go ahead and jump into our next guest. Here we go. We have another amazing guest for you. We are recording this on June 24th. Today, we are joined by Kelly Wilkerson. What's going on, Kelly?
Hi, how are you?
Great.
Glad to be here.
I am so glad that many, many years ago, was it Liz Priestley that connected us?
Yes, it was like, I want to say, so I'm 27 now. I think I was like 16 or 17 when I met you at a spoken word event. And yeah, I went with Liz and saw you like do your thing. And I was like, who is that guy?
That is cool. Liz, I just interviewed Liz earlier today.
Oh my gosh, I love her. I haven't talked to her in a long time. I need to say hi.
And then I think Snapchat kept us in touch for a long time.
Yeah, that's back when I was like really active I was trying to be on like every social media, and now I've like pared it down. I can only keep up with Instagram. Like, I know I'm 27, but I feel real old. I'm like, I can do one thing and that's it. But yeah.
That is awesome. So Kelly, how would you describe yourself in 6 words?
So this is actually pretty hard for me to do. I'm a talker, so I was like, man, 6 words. Emotional, confident, spiritual, kind, empathetic, empowering.
And how did you go about choosing those words?
I feel like for me, kindness is kind of like something that I really try to personify in pretty much all of my relationships. Like, you know that quote, people will forget what you said, but they're going to remember how they made you feel. I think that was Dr. Maya Angelou who said that. And that really, makes a difference. So kindness is something that I kind of want to be known for. And when I was in like 5th grade, people used to call me Kind Kelly. And so alliteration kind of, it stuck with me. So that was how I chose kind. But confident, I'm pretty confident in who I am. I think as an artist, as a vocalist particularly, I'm pretty confident in my voice. Emotional, I definitely always try and describe myself as emotional because it's been used against me in the past. Like, oh, you're so emotional. And I kind of was like, no, I am emotional. So I have taken that back as like, I'm reclaiming that as mine. And like, I am emotional and I'm proud and I'm confident about that. And so spiritual, I believe that we're all spiritual beings. That's my belief. And so I just believe myself to be spiritual in general. And then empowering, because I really care about people, and I want people to walk away from a relationship with me or even just a conversation with me feeling like, wow, I can do whatever I want to do after talking to her. So yeah.
I love that. I appreciate how each one was chosen intentionally and with purpose.
Thank you.
What is a specific story in your life or someone else's that illustrates what it means to be a creative?
I think to be a creative, in the past, I've thought of that as like a medium. Like I'm a creative because I paint, or I'm a creative because I write. And I think for me, over the years, I've kind of almost like decided within myself to be a creative means to make space, with your art, with your words, with your songs, with your pictures, whatever your medium is. You're trying to create connection. You're trying to create space. You're trying to create conversation. And so for me, a specific story in my own life is my roommate and I have been having these family meals with our friends, like a group of maybe 15 to 20 people, depending on the month. And we would create space for people to come into our home, and we would cook for them and just host them and let them be. And that would create space for people to have conversation, to get to know people they wouldn't normally be in a room with. I had people who were as young as 18 and as old as, I think, 35. And to have those two, even just those generational differences, not to mention religious backgrounds or ethnicities or life experiences or beliefs, to have those people in a small space. It took creativity to make sure that everyone was comfortable. It took creativity to make sure all the vegans had something to eat, all the vegetarians had something to eat, the people who were doing keto, they had something to eat, so creating a family meal was like my way. And truly with my friend, it was a way for me to be creative and create space. And that's super important to me. Going back to the whole feeling of, I want to be empowering. I want people to feel a certain way when they're around me. So
I really like that. That's really profound. When for you, you said, I used to think it was the medium, like a creative as an artist, but then it became space. Was there like something that happened that brought that to light? What, where, when, where, how, who, what, any of those things for that?
I think, long story short, when I was in middle school, I had an art teacher who kind of set these boundaries around like what art was, and was like, you have to paint this picture and it needs to look like the example. And I just wasn't necessarily good at imitating, with my hands, exactly what she had on the board. And I remember getting like a C on an art piece. And I was like, what? and ever since then, like since middle school, I had this downward spiral of thinking I'm not creative. And over time, as I had different people come into my life, different life experiences, different, spiritual beliefs that evolved over time, I kind of was like, you know what? I am a creative being, and I believe that I was created, which in turn means that I can create. And whether that is, I'm cooking. I love to cook for people because, food brings people together like nothing else can. Whether it's creating, an event space. I have an event planning business, and, creating a space where people can feel comfortable and welcome in a space, doing, again, my main medium or my main thing is I'm a singer, I'm a vocalist. And so singing or, even doing spoken word, which I haven't really dabbled in too much, but I'm definitely interested in. I think seeing that, I'm creative in all these other ways, just because I can't paint well doesn't mean I'm not creative. So I think it's about space. So ever since middle school, I've kind of been on this journey of like, what does it even mean to be creative? If someone's going to grade me on my creativity, like, is that actually what creativity is? So I don't think I've ever told that story.
Well, it's really profound. And it reminds me of something I share all the time from Brene Brown's research, where she found that so many people, in fact, of the people she interviewed, around 80% of people were shamed by a teacher. And of the 80%, around 55% of those people were shamed in a creative environment. So
that's wild.
Right?
That is wild. It's like the one thing that you can't truly grade. It's the thing that people get graded on really harshly, and it changes pretty much the trajectory of their life. It has the power to. So yeah, that's crazy.
So for maybe someone who's right now, maybe drawing this connection that, oh, maybe that was me. Maybe I have one of these art scars or creativity wounds. What would your advice be to them?
I would say, don't worry about other people, as hard as that is, show up for yourself, create for you. And then when you're creating for you, it doesn't really matter what anybody else thinks, because you can be the most successful, quote unquote, or highly paid artist, actor, and there's still going to be someone who's like, oh, I hate that guy, so I think when you create for you and you start to fall in love with your own creative process and your own, product, it's not about the end result. It's about creating for you and being confident in your own hand and your own voice and your own skill or trade. Fall in love with you first and then let everybody else just watch.
I love that. Fall in love with yourself first and then let everybody else watch. Yes. How has your art evolved?
So I think going back to that story, truly, I used to think that failure was failure. And I have learned that failure, if you want to call it that, to me, I define failure as not showing up as my full self. And so my art has evolved as I have evolved. And as I have become an artist that is okay with, coloring outside the lines. Truly, that's such almost a cliche thing to say, but it's true. When you're graded as a, 12-year-old for coloring outside the lines and someone's like, C, it's like, that's pretty harsh. And so I think me evolving as a person, as an artist, and saying, however this ends up, I love it because I made it. I think my art has evolved because of that, because I'm willing to be vulnerable. I'm willing to put myself out there, and I'm willing to just show up as me and let people watch. And if they want to watch and they enjoy it, that's fine. If they don't like it, there's the door. That's fine. You don't have to stay. But like, if you're doing art for someone else, it's going to be a long, tough road.
So as a singer, and I could be wrong, but you sing often in church, right?
Yeah. I grew up singing in church.
So that very much feels though like it's not for you. It's for the congregation. It's for God, if you will. So how do you, for you specifically, how do you do that? Especially when you're performing for people, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's something I had to really wrestle with as I grew up as a really young person on a stage, in front of people, doing something that's a very intimate act. If you're a worshiper, it's supposed to be between you and the God you believe in. And so for me, I had to really come to terms with, I'm doing this thing that is really just for me and for my God. And if other people want to watch, they're welcome to. I am confident in my own voice enough that I'm cool with people listening in. But ultimately, if they don't like the song, if they don't like the way I sang it, it doesn't really matter because it's not about them. It's about me and my God. So that's a whole nother conversation. We can come back for that one. But I think for me, it was truly just being okay with, I'm singing for me. I'm singing for the God that I believe in. And if people want to observe, they are more than welcome to. And if they learn something, great. If it brings up questions for them, great. We can talk about it. We don't even have to believe the same things, and you're welcome to join in, but, or just observe. But I think being able, again, to show up for self first and let people just form their own opinions. You don't have to control and micromanage what other people think about you or what your experience is.
I appreciate you going there with us, Kelly. This is really awesome.
Yeah.
What inspires you?
For me, my biggest inspiration is really seeing other people do what they love. Watching people light up as they do the thing that they're in love with it's so attractive. It's so, and I mean the truest sense of the word attractive. It's like it attracts other people to your energy, if you will. It's how we met. I saw you doing what you loved, what you believed in. You were doing your poetry, and you were speaking your truth. You were speaking about what impacted you. And I remember as a 16, 17-year-old girl being like, whoa, he's saying stuff up there. And like, I want to meet him. I want to know what's his inspiration. And so for me, that's kind of how I live my life, is I get to watch other people do what they love. And it's the reason why people can make a career out of being like, I sew handkerchiefs. It's like, how do you make a career out of that? Because they love it and they put their all into it. They put passion into it and they invest everything into it. And that makes you say, oh, shoot, I think I want a handkerchief too, you know? And so watching people and seeing the way that they're inspired and go after what they love, that inspires me.
I love that.
Yeah.
What is one impact, if you could have, on the world or society through your art? What would you want that to be?
I really believe that my life is art. You know, the things that I say, the words that I speak, the songs that I sing, the meals that I cook, you know, it all is art. It's all an offering to the world. And so I would want for people to walk away from a conversation, a relationship, an encounter with me, feeling like they are empowered to be their full self, regardless of how it manifests. So going back to the medium doesn't matter. You know, I've had so many people see my hair and say like, oh, I love however you did your hair. Like, what products do you use? To me, that said, you saw me, you felt comfortable enough with me to approach me and ask me, what did you do? And I get to share, hey, this is my routine. This is what I use. You know, people coming up and saying, I've never seen a plus size woman so confident in a bathing suit, you know, at the beach. And me being able to say, yeah, I mean, hey, nice to meet you. and, you know, creating space, you know, to have those conversations. And so regardless of the medium, regardless of the manifestation of your art, I would want for people to walk away from me feeling like, okay, I have something to offer too. If she can do it, I can do it.
Oh, I love that. There's a couple of things you said. Life is art and art is an offering.
Yeah.
Can you go into art is an offering?
Yeah. I think art in its truest form, and I'm not a philosopher. I'm not a theologian. I'm just a girl who believes in herself. And I think that everybody is creative, whether you are creative as an accountant and whether you're creative as a closet organizer, as a chef. I think everything is creative. The way that you put your spin, the way that your mind works, that is creative in and of itself, regardless of the manifestation. So if that's true, then that means all of life is art. Everything that you do, everything you approach, if you bring your full self, you bring vulnerability, you are willing to be risky with the truth and honesty of yourself, whether it's being honest about your sexuality, being honest about your writing, being honest about your experience with racism, you're honest about the way you interpreted a song and then you sang it. Like all of those expressions of honesty, that is artistic because it takes vulnerability, and vulnerability and creativity are married and you can't separate them. So I think all of life is art. All of it is. If you bring your all and you bring yourself, you're bringing an offering to the world that only you can bring.
So many things. We're going to have you back, Kelly. This is awesome.
Anytime. I'm a talker, so I can talk all night.
What would be your dream collaboration?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So don't make fun of me. I know this is like the least deep thing I'm probably going to say. Magic Kingdom, Disney World, 100%. Like I am a Disney kid. I grew up in Florida, and I know everybody knows there's some ratchetness in Florida. And you could even say Disney World can be ratchet sometimes, but I grew up going to Magic Kingdom, and the colors, the sounds, the smells, everything was done with intention. You know, from the time that you step onto the campus, they're like, hello, princess, how are you? And I'm like, oh my gosh, hi. And so like, even as an adult, I know people make fun of Disney adults, but like, that's me through and through. So if ever I got a chance to work with Disney World, and like, whether it was singing, being that voice that you hear at the end of the night during the fireworks, you know, show, I would love to be that magic voice that's like, welcome, your dreams are coming true today. I would love that.
This is such a fun answer. I so appreciate this.
That's just the truth. I love Disney World.
So for folks that are working at Disney right now that want to take you up on that, for people listening that want to connect with you, where can they do that?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Kelly Wilkerson, KELLY WILKERSON. real simple.
There we go. Disney, get at Kelly. She's ready for you.
I'm ready to sing.
And Kelly, what's your invitation to those who are listening? What would you like to invite them to do, to be, to consider, to think about? What is your invitation?
That's an amazing question. I love that you ask people this. I would invite you, whoever you are, show up as your full self for yourself. And when you do that, you can change the world. When you're not worried about other people, what they think, what they feel about you, as hard as that is, and as much work as it takes, you are worth showing up for you. You are worth falling in love with. And when you can do that for yourself, you can change the world.
Oh, I love that. Show up as your full self for yourself. You are worth showing up for. Mm-hmm. I love that. Kelly, how would you describe this conversation in one word?
Fun.
Fun. I appreciate that.
Super fun.
Thank you so much, Kelly. This has been a blast. I'm so grateful that we got you on here. It really means so much, and looking forward to having you on here again.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation. Anytime.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.
Welcome back. Today is June 30th, and we are joined by one of my great friends, the genius, the creative, the brilliant, the amazing, the awesome maker of vegan food, the go-to invite to any potluck you're ever going to have.
You are telling too much and being way too kind.
Amir Abdullah, Assalamu alaikum, brother. How are you?
Alaikum salam. Alhamdulillah, I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here. Happy to be here talking to my friend. My goodness. That's not every day that you get to see that you get to talk to an actual friend in an interview setting. So
I always appreciate our time together.
Yes, as do I. It's good to see you and good to be here.
Yes. Talk to me about that. You put an emphasis on it's good to be here.
I think it's two or threefold. It's good to be here and present, among friends. Number one, especially after the year that we had and are continuing to have with a lot of people. I just came back from South Florida, and the devastation there with climate change, as well as what happened with the building collapsing. Like, all those things are weighing heavy on my mind. I went home finally for the first time since coronavirus. And, I was fortunate enough to be there with my family that hadn't been affected no one had passed away in my family from it. So, it's a great thing to be here and, be among that. And so it's just, it's a tough time. It's a tough time for a lot of people. So it's good. It's always going to be good to sit down and be able to just have a conversation with a friend. So
it's interesting how, I ask folks a lot of times, what are you grateful for? I mean, I even had my year of gratitude was one of my, actually, I don't think it was, but I talked about gratitude a lot. And usually I ask people, what are you grateful for? And this year, people are now saying, I'm grateful to be alive.
Yeah. I mean, and yeah, I think it's sad that it does take that for us, to understand the fragility, but there are a lot of people, as you know, there are a lot of people that still take it for granted. So, you can't reach everybody, but, hopefully some people are being reached here. That's the goal. That's the point.
This is how me and Amir do it, y'all. When we go somewhere, even before we sat down, we get deep already.
Is it too
By
deep?
the way, have you thought about this super deep and complex subject?
We got to give the people what they want.
Amir, for those who don't know you, who haven't seen either one of your plays or seen you on the big screen or listened to one of your audiobooks or whatever it might be, how would you describe yourself in 6 words?
Okay. Describing myself in 6 words. The way that I take that question is more so about personality and how are those things. So I'm going to start there, but I will preface this with I primarily am an actor, a voiceover artist, and playwright. That's my base. Like a lot of people in Los Angeles, and it's a wonderful thing, but it doesn't necessarily define me. So I'll get to those 6 words that I feel defines Amir right now at 35. First thing would be aware. It sounds a little self-serving, but I am hyper aware of myself and my own place in the world and in the way that I interact with other people, including Tom here today. I'm hyper aware of the words that I'm saying. It's a difficult place to live sometimes, but ultimately it's a good thing, and I think a lot of us could stand for making a better world in living in a space of having an awareness of other people. I'm thoughtful in a lot of ways. I do think a lot at night when I'm should be trying to go to sleep. I'm up thinking, not necessarily in a negative way, not necessarily negative thoughts, but I do think about decisions and decisions that I've made, or the way I may have impacted someone's life in a negative or positive way. I'm uncertain. I'm uncertain in even those thoughts. So I don't know everything. I'm in a constant state of trying to gain a knowledge and better understanding of the things that I don't understand. And sometimes I fail at that. I'm amiable. I think I'm pleasant. I'm friendly with people. I try to be polite. And I do generally, in my past, I've generally loved being around people. And that also brings me to my next word, which is an ambivert. Like a lot of people, I was seeing those. I was thinking really hard about this. I was like, okay, what are 6 words that would describe myself? I was like, I don't want this to be too like self-serving. And so I found like there is that term called like an extroverted introvert. And I was like, yeah, I get that, but we want to like really narrow it down because I feel like that can be a cop-out word. So I think ambivert, like you waver in between being an extrovert and an introvert. I definitely, and a lot of that has to do with energy. Do you get energy from being around people, or do you get energy are you able to recharge by being by yourself? And it definitely, for me, it wavers, or it depends on the people that I'm around. So, and the last thing, the 6th word that I would use to describe myself would be evolving. I hopefully am not the same person that I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and certainly not 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I was in diapers, so I can't be the same person. But so I like to be constantly, evolving, actually, like in thought, mentally, as well as even spiritually. And I just want to constantly be changing and hopefully growing. And that's those are the 6 words that I would take to describe me. Tom, did you have any input?
I did have a curiosity. It is. Yeah. We're going to go deep, personal, vulnerable, quick. I feel like I can do it because I know you. Yeah. Are you comfortable with me going there?
Depends. So yeah, no, of course, man. Go ahead.
And feel free to tell me no, and we can move on.
Let's hear.
So people can't see. Maybe people are listening. Maybe people can't see. But Amir's tall. Okay, so he's a tall black man. Okay. So my first thought was when you said amiable, I had started to think how much of amiable is genuinely what you want, and also feeling like I need to be amiable so people don't feel threatened and make decisions that could harm you.
Let's see. I think at this point in my life, I don't even think it's something that I can even consciously be. I can't consciously be there. Like, think about that every time. Because now it's ingrained in part of my personality. Like, it's just part of me now. Living 30 some years this way, and, growing up in the South, like these are things that you have to be polite. Politeness is taught to you as much as it's taught, as you learn how to walk. You have to learn how to be polite and talk to people and interact with people in a way that people will like you. So those were things that I would even say that were just hammered home in general. And I don't necessarily know what my personality would be like without getting those survival skills. Does that make sense, Tom? Like, so I wish, I wish I had a greater understanding or was able to have a greater understanding of myself on that front, but I don't, because those things are so hammered home when as survival skills, but also as not just survival skills as far as like in the streets or talking to police, but just even in something like getting a job. So today, Tom, I knew I was going to meet you and have this interview. So I those who can't see, I'm wearing a blazer. Yes, I have a chain on as my style and everything like that. But I also know I'm coming into a professional setting. Those are things that were hammered home to me as survival skills, rightly or wrongly, because I know right now a lot of people have different thoughts about that, and they're all valid. Really, they are all valid. But I also can't. I mean, this is where I'm from. This is what I've come from, and I've chosen to keep these aspects of my personality or dress. But that would also be something that's very difficult to break. I hope that answers your question.
No, I mean, it definitely does, and I appreciate you going there with me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't trying to say that I had any judgment on your choice of the word.
Tom, we don't have to do that, and we don't have to get in that. Like, I know. See, I know, and that's what I'm saying. I know you're coming in. I know you're well. I know what you mean. I know you're meaning well, and I'm meaning well back to you. So yes, I want to have a respectful conversation with you, but at the same time, we got to get to the nitty gritty. So.
Yes, we got to go there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I love that answer. It reminds me of I've mentioned this on a different podcast. So I just finished Isabel Wilkerson's Cast. Have you checked that book out?
I haven't checked it out, but I've seen it. Yeah, I definitely have seen it on the audiobook.
Okay, so she talks about being able to tell, because she went deep into also India's caste system. She could just tell, like with her eyes, just seeing how people interact, right? What caste they're from. And so I think about it's the same for me, right? Me coming from a dominant caste is ingrained in my personality, mannerisms, ways I look at the world, even as I'm trying to decolonize them for myself. They are there. So it's like, it's just as much as you're saying for you, I have to own for me that coming from a perspective of the other end, if you will. So it's not a one-way street. So
right. And I think what I can ask of other people is to, is their awareness. I think, and other people have strong, other people feel way more strongly about it. And that's for them to speak on. But where I'm coming from right now, especially knowing and interacting with other people that have no idea or just completely unaware, I'm just asking for an awareness. And I think we'll get later on into the podcast or into our show to understand, I guess where I'm coming from with that, where I'm coming from.
But when I did hear you define amiable for yourself, what I resonated with is, when you get the opportunity, the privilege, the gift to be around Amir, there's like this, like light gives off light, energy gives off energy. That I was like, yes, that's what I understand you mean by amiable. Like, you're like, oh wow, I feel better. I feel more energized being in your space. That's what I'm hearing amiable means when you described it for yourself.
That's very kind of you. It is. It's very kind of you. It's hard for me. Like, that's the other thing. It's hard for me to take, not that I have a hard time taking compliments and stuff like it. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
Well, let's jump into creativity, because you're in a tough industry.
Yes.
That makes some sense for why it can be hard to take compliments, because it's a very critical industry. So for you, what's a story that illustrates what it means to be a creative?
I think for this question, I had a couple of things. So they're my own thoughts. They're my own thoughts, not necessarily an anecdote or, I saw Bill Gates and I was inspired in that sense. But talking about, somebody like that of technological wealth, I think it is, I think creativity begins with building on the gifts that you have been given and acknowledging others to make something that inspires the next innovation or creation, which would be in business, art, technology, all of those are endeavors that can be defined by creativity in that sense. And so I think that's what creativity in itself is defined at, to me, and not only making something, which is difficult, but also making something that is given to others, that others can be inspired or find use with or ease with. And like I said, yes, my industry is of the arts, the artistic industry, and I can make something. Say I can write something that's just for me, and that's great. That's good. That's wonderful. Is that creative? You can make that argument for some people, but for me, the thing that makes it creative is the giving to others, to the audience. I think, Dr. Hatouf used to say that it's like the completion of a kiss. Like the one person is coming in giving, you got to come through and get the other person to give you the kiss back. That is what creativity is to me, and that's what that's the kind of art that I want to be able to do, that inspires others and gives to others, because that building part is it's so integral, it's so important, and I think it's one thing that is also so lost. Like I think I'm incredibly blessed to be able to do audiobooks. Number one, because it creates accessibility of stories to people who may not be able to read, may not be able to read well, may not be able to have access to all of the gifts that I've been fortunate enough to be able to have, but then to be able to take even someone else's story who has put it down on pen and paper and take that and use my gifts to build on that. I mean, goodness, like that's creativity to me. That is creativity and given to the next person. And that who's to say that person, won't be inspired and be able to give their own oral retelling or oral story like that. That's what I'm interested in, is that thread of storytelling, which is the oldest, that's the oldest thing. I mean, from the pictures that people would draw on the walls to the oral storytelling in Africa, in Greece. Like these are inherent to our humanity. These are things that make us, that really make us human. So to be human is at the very heart and root is creativity. So that's what I got to say on that.
Yes, indeed. We were hoping you wouldn't stop because you were going in. So let me pull some things out. Let me see. So I'm hearing, first of all, that creativity is a relationship, that when it builds upon and gives meaning, but especially when there's more than one person involved in that relationship, that to you is when creativity goes to the next level. Am I hearing that right?
I think that's when it really happens. I can make something, but am I creating it until I give it to you? This is me personal. I'm not creating it until it's given to you.
Okay, so almost there needs to be a receiving and an interacting with.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And then the other part I'm hearing is that when that person who received it builds upon it, makes it into their own, interprets it, when they're inspired by it, that to you is then an even higher level.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Mm-hmm.
So with that in mind, with that definition in mind, how has your art evolved, your creativity evolved?
Okay, my creativity has evolved. Okay, number one, I think when I got into theater, which is where I think a lot of us start. We start as theater kids. It was really the only thing that I actually felt like I had any talent in. So it began from a self-interested place, which is a difficult thing to admit. It's a difficult thing for a lot of artists to admit, is that we are coming from a place of some people, I'm going to speak for everybody. Some people are coming from a place of self-interest. And I certainly was when I was, 16 or 17. It was something that made me liked, that made me popular, that made me special, that made me different, that made me stand out. It was me. It's great. I mean, that's great as a teenager. But as I started to get older and mature, I also understood the power that that stories can have on other people, and the power that the actors that can have on other people and society. And I think I had a teacher in graduate school, Jim Wise. I mean, it was like his whole thing. I went to University of Miami. Like I loved, I was from Florida. Like I loved Miami. Like that was me, you know what I'm saying? I was Mr. Miami and stuff. So like I came up there, I came to Penn State for grad school, and, he was like, oh, you come over here with your youth swagger and all this stuff, but you got to know what you're doing. You got to know, da, da, da. So he was very instrumental in refining and retuning some of those aspects. And then I think being in Los Angeles definitely humbles you, because you realize you end up understanding what it is that why you're doing this, why you're still here, pounding the pavement and switching up and juggling a whole bunch of different things. And it can become, for me, it's become less about me. There's still part of it. I mean, I still have to pay bills. I still have to survive. I still have to do those things, that we all have to do to be able to exist. But there's a greater part of it now. There's a greater part of it that's almost spiritual. That's about using the gifts that I've been given to be able to give to others, and most importantly, I think, is to get people to think about things in a way that they may not necessarily have always thought about them. So that was what definitely my first endeavor into playwriting was, which was Pray to Ball, that got produced out here in Los Angeles. That was what I wrote when I was here. I moved here my first year and I knew nobody, and I was trying to figure it out. I put a story that meant something to me that I hope could have a positive change on other people. And a lot of people took to that. And that was the thing that really I springboarded my theater career. And so it ended up being a happy thing that I was able to give and have people think, that people ended up taking to it and going, okay, yeah, I want to understand this and I want to get this. I didn't know that. Like people were, anyway. So yeah, it was, these things have caused me to change from a place of being motivated by self-interest into being motivated by giving back to others. And it's immensely rewarding. Especially, I got the opportunity to do a show at Chicago Shakespeare Theater in 2019 before the pandemic. And the show was performed largely for massive amounts of school children from Chicago public schools. We got to go into schools. We got to perform them. It was just the amount of love and outpouring and support and the ability to shape somebody. There's going to be one or two kids that saw that show and they're going to go, you know what? I think I could be like, I could play in Shakespeare. I want to understand this. I want to get this. Like that was, it's better than getting paid, to be honest. It's better than getting paid. It really is. Knowing that you're helping that somebody's going to take it and run. It's great.
You're giving great answers.
Thanks. It's honest, man. That's how I feel.
And that's what I think matters most is the vulnerability, the honesty, going there with us. I was selfish at the beginning of this episode and I took us off script. And so therefore we've run out of time with some of the other questions.
Oh no. Oh no, my bad. Oh goodness. I guess you have to have me on for part 2.
I think so. We got to have you on for a feature, for a full-length interview.
Oh goodness.
I think though you've spoken to the inspiration piece and the impact you want to have. Is there anything you want to add on either of those?
Yeah, I think the main takeaway, what I want people to think about is just think about the way that we all interact with each other in our daily lives. I think one thing that really stands out to me, especially being in Los Angeles, is like in particular the way that we the way that we drive around each other. We're seen as this bastion of, progressive attitude and acceptance and liberalism. And I mean, you get on the road, no one cares about each other's lives. That's how it feels. So just think about each other in the way that we interact on the daily, especially if it's somebody that we don't know. Fight for them and fight for each other. That's what I have that's all. That's what I wanted to say.
Amir, for folks who want to connect with you and reach out to you, build with you, where can they do that?
You can find me on my website, www.amir-abdullah, ABDULLAH.com.
And we will have all of that in the show notes for you. Amir, you might have already done it for us, but is there an invitation that you'd like to leave folks with?
That is my invitation. That is my invitation is to think about each other. And if you're fortunate enough to have family and have a relationship with them, give them a call. Tell them you love them.
This was awesome, and I look forward to having you back for a full length one.
Thanks, Tom. See you later.
See you this Sunday, hopefully.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you. I hope our guests from this week allowed you to find new avenues and new ways of thinking about creativity. Creativity isn't just for those who self-describe themselves as artists. All of us have ways that we are profoundly expressing our creativity every single day. And I hope my guests today helped you to connect more deeply with your creativity. I'd love to know your thoughts on this week's episode. You can reach out to me at Tom Earl Artist on all social media, tom@tomearl.com via email, or if you'd like to learn how you can use your creativity in your marketing, in your Facebook and Instagram ads specifically, we have a ton of resources for you. You can find by going to tomearl.me/ads, tomearl.me/ads. My friends, it has been an honor. I am so grateful for you sharing your most powerful resources, your time and energy with me. And as always, I'm wishing you peace and blessings. Thank you. One more thing. I'd love to continue the conversation. Feel free to join me at tomearl.com/join. Subscribe below, or let's connect on social media. Tom Earl Artist. Thanks again for watching.